I'd like to welcome everybody to the McCauley Mountain Special Meeting for the placement of the chairlift. Nancy, could you please read the notice of public hearing?
The town of Webb will be holding a special meeting on Monday, April 29th at 9 a.m. to discuss chairlift placement and tree clearing at McCauley Mountain. Nancy T. Russell, town clerk.
We have some correspondence. Could you please read that?
We do. To Supervisor Baker and Town of Webb Town Board. And I'm unable to attend the meeting this morning. I would like to give my opinion on the chairlift placement. I feel that removing the current chairlift and replacing it with a new lift is the best decision for many reasons. One, the current placement is the best skiing accessibility for the bottom of the mountain. Two, I believe that it will be difficult to ski the proposed bottom of the new lift for beginner skiers, parents teaching their kids to ski. Three, there's a few options to offset the cost for removing the current lift, such as selling parts from the lift. Possibly another ski area would be interested in removing the lift for a nominal price as long as they can cover the cost of removal. Four, by removing a large amount of the trees on the hill will cause quite a few issues, such as it already is difficult to manage the snowmaking on Skyride and Olympic. It would be extremely difficult to remove the trees due to the terrain involved. I'm also concerned that the new terrain that will be exposed to the public will be very dangerous, not to mention the exposure of the aging snowmaking pipes and the danger of the skiers. 5, the top of the hill will be exposed to the wind due to the amount of tree removal. In conclusion, I believe unfortunately, it's going to be impossible to accomplish this project before the upcoming ski season. Hopefully we can consider getting all the ducks in a row and get an early start next year. There's a few projects already in place for the mountain this summer. I also think the improvements to the snowmaking should take continued priority. Without a good snowmaking, there isn't a need for a new chairlift. Excuse me. I want to thank everyone for the continued support of McCauley Mountain. Thank you, Bob Diorio. And
Thanks,
that's the only
Bob.
one we got. That's it.
All right, we're going to start with the audience, and I'm going to call on each of you individually. We're going to start with Mountain Manager Steve Eustavinas.
Hi, good morning. Do I have to stand up or anything?
No, but...
where to start? I guess two things to start is it's going to be my opinion and just that, obviously. But one of the things I question is, why are we here? How did we get here? I thought, to be honest with you, that the last board made a decision and it's just a little bit of a dangerous precedent, in my opinion, that like when you guys are gone, the next board can change your ruling or your ideas or your thoughts or what you've started to enact. With that said, it's probably really good that we are here because there is a difference of opinion. As you're going to learn, there's a difference of opinion just right here. You know what I mean? So it's probably really smart that we are here and we're doing this. Originally, my whole idea is, and I still have to go back to, I want a beginner chairlift. Our beginner facility is Magic Carpet will make that much better, but a Magic Carpet is shorter than what we currently have. It's going to be a lot easier to use for skiers because it's a carpet, everybody can ride it. But we still have a lack of beginner terrain. And beginner terrain, originally I thought of a beginner chairlift would be a really good idea because not only are we going to keep beginners happy for a long period of time, perhaps their whole beginning career, or their whole career, but also we're going to teach them how to get on and get off a chairlift safely. Currently what we're seeing is that because we don't have a beginner chair, snowboarders literally, if they've got any patience at all, after 1 or 2 attempts on a rope tow, they go, screw that. I'm either going to go to a different mountain or I'm going to go to the chairlift. And what happens now is because of that, is we find ourselves having to stop or slow the chair to snowboarders to get on and get off because they literally just throw themselves in and out of the chair. So that's sort of where I started. Then we did have, through cultivation of a really good relationship with the management at Gore and with folks at Orta, we basically, I helped browbeat them into giving us, or hopefully providing us with a ski lift. It's been a long process and it looks like that's come to fruition, and that's a really good thing. So with this new chair, it's able to reach the top of the mountain, not necessarily good for that beginner. It's a little too much horsepower, a little too long, a little too much. So we're gonna go to the top of the mountain. Most mountains that I know of, or at least certainly ours, you've got a bottom and you got a top. The chairlift or whatever lift, if you're going to service the whole mountain, it starts as close to the bottom as you possibly can and goes to the top. Originally, my thought with this new chair, I say new chair, it's not a new chair. It's a 2011, I believe, refurbished in 2017. So to locate this new to us lift, this used lift, I originally thought that to replace our oldest existing lift, which is that T-bar. That went in 1958. Even Mike was a young man back when that went in. That's what I thought. You replace that first, and then when that's replaced, eventually, when the town has got all of its ducks in a row, then we replace our existing chairlift, the 1973, which is our newest lift there. Then we replace that with, ideally to me, it would be a new chairlift, not a used one, not a borrowed, not something we beg off of Gore. So once you've got, but the key with my thought was that we replaced the T-bar. Yes, it's not perfectly at the bottom of the hill. If you come down that far chute, everybody knows the hill of Challenger, that one little last chute, or Rambler, it does make it a little bit harder to get over to the T-bar, but people have been accessing the mountain, the top of the mountain, from that big T-bar since 1958 or whatever, without much problem. Currently, even if there's a line at the chairlift, you literally have to traverse that same terrain to get pretty much to that same location. If there's a line, that's where it goes. It goes toward that bottom of that T-bar. So I never thought much of the big, there's a huge issue if that is not at the bottom, not right where that chairlift currently is now, the bottom of it now. Also, with it at the T-bar location, literally if you had the drive very, very close to where that T-bar drive is now, you wouldn't affect the road, so we could continue our summer operations. You wouldn't affect the road, so we could continue. People are constantly having to service the communications towers. I thought also if you utilize where that T-bar is currently, then you have less cutting. And you have less sort of soil disturbing and sort of thing. You don't get into those cliffs that are sort of to the left. You don't get as much into them. Then, we did do but from what I understand, that's not what some people are thinking. So let's go through that a little bit. In my opinion, if you say, well, let's go to where to the chairlift is now. Yes, you don't have to cut as many trees. Yes, you don't have the clearing sort of thing. You might hopefully access those poor areas or those new chairlift base areas easier. The top, you're going to continue to, you'd have to get rid of everything at the top and start from new, that's fine or whatever, but you've got some space because it literally would be similar footprint is that chairlift now. There's a lot of really positive things about that, but we're not moving forward. You're replacing a chairlift that currently is operating, is currently inspected yearly, is currently utilized every summer for scenic foot traffic. That would not only obviously not exist for this season or for the season it's being built, but if you were to say, hey, we're going to jump into this with both feet for this year, then you almost are already behind the 8 ball, and you may not have a winter season. Or if you do, it'll be a lot like, let's say you put that new chairlift in there, and what happens if something goes wrong? Then you have to rely back to that T-bar to service the summit. And that currently, we obviously didn't do ourselves any favors in not prioritizing that, but we haven't. One of the reasons we haven't is because of our ability to keep that current chairlift, that haul lift, running. And you have to make snow on that, or you've got to put a lot of money into that to repair the pathway. Even if you did that, we put enough maintenance and time and effort into that T-bar to get it inspected and passed every season, which it is. It was inspected for this year. I have no doubt we can get it inspected for next year, you know what I mean? But that doesn't keep, we currently, when we would run it, we'd say no snowboarders because they have a tendency to get pulled out. It's a double fall line hill. You get pulled out, you derail the thing. Big pain in the neck. So we just simply say no snowboarders. It's also incredibly difficult for any beginners. So if that were to be your backup plan, it's gonna be really hard to service the top of the mountain if that chairlift A isn't completed or B has an issue that can't be resolved immediately. That's sort of my fear. I like the redundancy of having 2 chairlifts to the top. You service the top with 2 lifts if something goes wrong, but also when you're busy, busy on holiday weekends or busy on holidays, even fall foliage, you're busy. Personally, and I think that, I don't think there's anyone really, certainly not in this room, that knows that chairlift better than me. And I have absolute, complete confidence in that Hall chairlift being able to run for the next 10, 15, I don't know how many years.
So you believe that it should go in the new spot?
I believe it
And you
should
wanna
go
keep
where
the
the
old one.
T-bar,
Okay.
to keep the current chairlift that is currently running, currently inspected, for the near future or even the long future until the town deems it. But if you're telling me the town can only afford 1 chairlift, then probably that is the best space for it, is you get rid of that old hall lift and put it right there. I don't know that that's the case. That's why you guys get paid the big bucks, obviously, to figure that out.
Thank you. I let Steve talk longer because he's mountain manager. We're gonna shorten everything else, 2 minutes. Jane Cameron.
You want my opinion?
I sure do.
I'm in agreement with Stevie for several reasons. I teach those little kids at the mountain, and there's not a chance they can get up that T-bar without falling off. And then you discouraged a family, you've discouraged whatever. I say get rid of the T-bar that's useless. Put the new to us lift in where the T-bar is, and then we've got the hall lift for backup, busy weekends, and whatever. I don't see any reason to not go in that direction, personally.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question quick? So just because I'm trying to get caught up with this whole thing, it's right now you're discussing to just put it where the T-bar is and not remove any trees?
No, you'd still have to.
You still would have-
remove
yeah.
trees.
But I don't
so
think
it'd still be like what we heard the other day with the bid proposal. That's part of that.
But I haven't seen that bid, but I assume that it encompasses that new place that we sort of looked at that, we talked about and compromised, if you will, about moving that drive unit downhill and over. So you're getting into a bigger swath of trees with more cliffs and more potential expenditures. And I don't know if that bid includes whether that old T-bar would be gone or not. That certainly would make it cheaper, I would assume. I don't want to
So
say.
that's where I'm just
Thank you.
confused there.
Dave Cross.
I'd like to thank Kurt Gardner, Brian Bamberger, and Mike Ross for making this kind of all happen. They went over to Lake Placid and met with the guys from Gore and have done, I know, countless hours of phone work and talking with, you name it. But anyway, and as far as the current lift that we have right now, it's been a really good lift. It's 51 years old though. And, I just think that nobody can say for sure how long that thing's gonna last. And what is the end game here? We run it until something bad happens, or who's gonna say that, well, today we ought to just not use that anymore. It's just no equipment lasts forever. And I think that to take the old lift out and put the new one in, it's obviously a big, huge project. And if you do it once, you get it over with. I think that's the way to go. And I understand the whole redundancy thing, but I have confidence that, whoever's going to be working there for the next several years will be taking care of this new lift, just like we did the old one. And, you know, I think it's gonna look really screwy, you know, with all those trees cut. And the top is definitely confined, you know. And we eventually won't have, you know, we can get the people up there. If we have both these lifts running full blast, you know, the problem is gonna be getting down, because we have narrow trails, so we add that many people to the thing, it's going to change the whole complexity of the thing, I believe. So I would bite the bullet and put the new one in, and it's like we're starting over. I mean, I know it's not new, but compared to the one we have, it is.
Thank you. Kevin?
I think I think we should be putting it where that old lift is. I think if we have two lifts running side by side up the mountain together, it's going to throw off the whole aesthetics of McCauley Mountain. If talking summer chair, you're not going to be wanting to run that triple chair, because everyone running up that triple chair will be looking through the hall lift at our beautiful scenery that we can offer up there. Doing the logging, we're not opening any skiable terrain. I've walked that with multiple logging companies. I think it's going to be really tough for the one bid that the one company that did submit a bid. My biggest concern is that they're going to get halfway up, run into these huge issues that they were unable to see from the base of the mountain, and now we're left with all these trees cut halfway up our mountain or down, whichever way they come, and then not be able to finish the project. If we put this project off until next year, we have almost half of our parking lot filled with towers, chairs, equipment. President's Week, we had an awesome weekend. We had cars parked along the road going out. We were so busy. So my opinion, I think we need to take that whole lift out and put it there.
Thank you. Nathaniel?
Put it where it's most convenient, I think.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with a lot of what they said, so.
All right, Lee?
I'm with Steve. I think it should new lift. I don't think it'll be all that bad putting it right up where the triple chair is. If anything, it's gonna open it up, so make that whole section easier to ski.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on that line before with one lift. It's annoying.
Mr. Levy, do you have an opinion?
Nothing overly new from what we talked about at the previous meeting, but
Okay.
I think that if you're really going to talk, you're trying to put two lifts in, you're pushing this project next year at the earliest. You're not getting this done for this ski season. We still got to go over the bid provisions, that there was a lot of stuff missing there but I think you need measurements up top. I think if you're really going to try to put that second lift next to where the hall lift lands, you need measurements on the bull wheel, you need measurements on the width there. I mean, you've got a cell tower, you've got the other chair. I mean, are you just gonna completely seal off? Right now you've got access around both sides of the hall lift. You're probably gonna lose that, and I don't wanna see a pinch point or something with small kids getting off or something, or just anyone making a mistake someday gets in between these and ends up in a pinch point. You gotta really have that planned out. You're also gonna lose your entire screen on where the National Grid building is, where the cell towers are. I think you're gonna take the aesthetics away, and like I'd said before, I just think that, you're not there yet with doing the work without all of the work laid out, without the survey done and the provisions around. If you're gonna do that work, first step is gonna be get down that T-bar. It's gotta get right out of the way to let someone have access in there and do the work, and you're just not there yet. So.
Thank you.
I'm for taking the hall lift out, put the new lift right where it belongs, right where the old one was sited there for a reason. It fits best, gives the best view for summer, the leaf peepers. The expense of doing two to the same location where it really doesn't fit, moving snowmaking guns, moving the power, trying to squeeze it between National Grid and the existing chair, just none of it seems to make any sense. It'd be great to have two lifts to the top, We haven't had, Steve, when was the last time the T-bar ran?
2 winters ago. 2 winters ago. Not the past 2 winters.
3 winters.
So the third winter.
Yeah. I'm not saying it doesn't need to run, but we don't have staff. Now we're gonna put 2 lifts in, staff them. For, one's a triple, now we got a double. Who are we gonna take up the mountain? We barely have lines now. We have President's Week, we have ski race days, if it's nice. It's just, contractor says he can get it done, says nothing has changed, right?
Correct.
He's guarantee a fall completion.
December 1. up and
You know,
running.
whether he starts this year and puts it where the haul lift is, or starts next year and puts it where the haul lift is, it's gonna be the same situation. As long as we're ready, would be my guess.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Just listening.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
First, maybe Mike, Ross, Steve, Kurt. What did the builders say about the top of the mountain?
You want to speak?
In regards to which way?
Well, space.
In regards to fitting another lift.
I would refer that back to the engineer. The engineer stood there and he said it would be tight, but he said that it is doable to have both chairlifts exit up there with pinch points in consideration. They measured everything out when we went up there and we staked it all out of what it would feel like. So is it possible? Yeah, no, that has been proven that it can be done.
You can only be skiing around skiers right around the lift, and then all the way around skiers left would be going down the sidewinder to the camp to Olympic and then down over.
Right. So you would lose that slot.
You'd only have one. Only be skiers right on the left that you'd be going.
Okay. But it would
skyride.
Technically, yes. If you're asking what the engineer said it can work there.
What about your grooming, Dave, up there? If there were 2 lifts there, because I was up there and looking at the distance between the 2.
It would be possible.
Okay.
I believe,
Okay.
depending on the tower, where the towers go and everything. I'm sure they could make it happen.
Dave was on site also when
We currently don't groom, what you're talking about, you're absolutely right, I think. But we currently don't groom both sides of that chairlift as it exists now because it's already too tight because of that top T-bar terminal. So we only do groom, make snow, and then groom, in fact, on that one side. So that wouldn't change much.
But access.
Also, Mike, what might help to answer a little bit your question, the bottom is totally a different spot than at the bottom of the T-bar. Ended up being more back farther, if I can try to explain this, and more towards the bottom of the lift that's there now. So that whole area is a different spot where it would be starting.
And if it goes in that spot, then that would require the large amounts of tree cutting going up it.
Right,
in order to go in that spot.
now you gotta clear a lot of, all of it basically.
Engineers said that we should not put the terminal at the base of the big T-bar terminal because of the flow of traffic. Because you're not side loading, you're loading from behind. So they get all the traffic coming from Challenger, Skyride, and Helmers coming down through the last run right there, and you're going to be running into traffic issues and safety issues.
Mike, anything? Opinions?
Put it where the haul lift is.
Gary?
Aren't
Tim.
the snowmaking plates up at
Pardon
the
me?
top? Aren't the snowmaking plates right up underneath the bull wheel for the T-bar as well? So isn't that another provision you have to consider? That's got to be done if you're doing this.
They did look at that when we were there. He did feel like where they were that he could make the placement because they did stake out when we were there with it. But again, it's not perfect. The surveying is done, so the engineer can plot a spot for it. But there probably would have to be some. They'd have to remove. There was something right there below the bull wheel. They said we'd have to remove
The valve house.
the valve house. Would have to get moved. So that for sure would have to get moved. So yes, you are correct. But that was talked about and identified at the top if it did go within tree clearing section.
Adam, in your opinion, you guys do logging. those pipelines that go up there and what, all the stuff that's there, does that not affect the tree cutting or the clearing also, or?
Oh, it absolutely does. So that's part of the reason we really didn't feel it was ready to throw a bid. I mean, you're kind of got it laid out like, okay, you have to, fall trees uphill or downhill to complete the project, but that's not how, logging really works. You're talking hand cutting a bunch of stuff. It's not going to be mechanized up on the mountain there. I was glad to hear Kevin say something about the other bid that was thrown in, because he never left the bottom of the mountain to see the terrain. I mean, I can't imagine getting up there and realizing.
Can you give a quick summary recap of what you said at that proposal too? Because Mike and I'm not, they weren't here for that, because I felt like that was important.
Which parts?
That like the stumps and how much difficulty that can cause on a mountain, and with the scope of work towards the top. Mike wasn't, that's all, just so they could be on record again, I guess.
I don't know if it'd be easier if you had my submitted bid to read again. Let's start with that.
Okay, you want the whole thing, or what do you want?
I feel like this is pretty important.
Okay, so, site not yet surveyed, no center stakes for clearing is written. No mention of bid pack, but acceptable ingress, egress, as well as location deemed accessible to process the wood for removal. No inclination of mobilization time frame. Is the 25th of May completion, or that day all equipment has to be off-site. Bid references blowing the chips along limits of the clearing. There's going to be thousands of yards of wood chips. Piles will be everywhere. There's no way of getting equipment up that mountainside to work that way. Slope seems to be 20% near the bottom, mostly in the 50% range on the slope, and as much as 90% in the area of the cliffs. No definition of trees, no definition of a pay schedule. If we awarded the bid, on the day of bid opening, 4 weeks is a small window to get the magnitude of the project done with spring weather, without being allowed to find subcontractors to aid. There's no mention of clearing envelope around the cell towers and other utilities, and no buried utilities are marked for any contractor to locate. There's no mention of where buried exposures are on the rest of the property, as well as no mention of site remediation or what would entail to satisfy the town and mountain staff as well as the public. Lastly, there's no site plan for references included in the bid packet. My professional opinion is you're not ready for this project in this time parameter. And they did put, we are however interested in bidding on the separate hazard trees in the outline. So they did bid extra trees, 8 trees, the west of the hall lift. They did bid on those. And that is written by Adam Levy. So
I think we determined too that was the 9 trees that there was a discrepancy.
There was 9 trees, so.
Yeah, that was
snowmaking and all
the
that
other
stuff.
thing was the wood chips being left on site. I get the idea of trying to protect the snowmaking pipes and maybe cover stumps, but you're running a ski mountain. Wood chips break down and compost and create heat and steam. You're not going to keep snow on that mountain well.
That was a big part of it. Thank you.
It'll be 1,000 degrees inside the chips. The only thing keeping it from igniting is moisture. So that's not something you want on the side of your mountain.
Thank you, Tim.
I would replace the hall lift. To me, it makes no sense of having 2 lifts next to each other. We don't have enough terrain to accommodate the people that we have right now with the beginners and the snowboarders. And if you're going to put that kind of money in, put another lift in the future so you can cut new trails and have a whole other access point to the top of the mountain. And then you can actually have a place that says that you have more than 1 lift and the terrain that accommodate it. It's my opinion.
Thank you.
Well said. Thank you.
Ron?
I can't hear very well, so I didn't hear everything that everybody said, but it sounds to me as though there are tons of issues before final decisions can be made and a solution can be had. I would say off the top of my head, if all those trees are cleared, you might change the name of McCauley to Bald Mountain and save Bald Mountain over there with some other name like Rondax or something. Thank you for letting me comment.
Thank you. Thanks for your opinion. Chris?
I guess I can see a little bit of both of these opinions, but I think that the way the winter went, it's been my first winter there, and I know it was an unusual winter, but from what we're forecasted to have a lot of winters that are maybe warmer than what we were used to when we were kids. We didn't see too many long lines, in my opinion. In fact, like I think even Steve and I looked at one time when I thought was a long line, and we watched, and it was like, what, 5 minutes for people to get on the chair, right? But we're spoiled. We're used to just riding right in and jumping on the chair and heading up. The capacity is greater with the new lift, so that could also help to counteract. And a lot of that's just skier preferences. We have a lot of people that choose to just be by themselves. You know, we have long lines. We could policy that out so that people, try to push people together to get on for the lift part. I also share the passion of the idea of a beginner chairlift. I think that that's a great idea. To Bob's point, I mean, of course, the focus on snowmaking, but I wasn't aware that it would be an either or. Like snowmaking focus, we've got that grant to start, so I don't know that anything is going to take away from the snowmaking. Maybe there's something to be said for possibly repurposing the hall. I mean, that would be great if we could. I would say we would do it right where we are. I mean, it'd be great to see kind of it's great to see a chair, a smaller chair. In my vision, Mac's back is underutilized, and so if there was use for that hall, maybe that would be something we could look at down the road. But to get people to the top and to make a decision right now, I guess my opinion, I would lean towards the replacement of the current hall with the new chair.
Thank you.
And I just don't know what we're going to do with the other one. Maybe a lot to talk about.
Linda Wheel.
Thank you.
Nope. Just here to listen. Thank you. Kurt Gardner.
I'm just here with facts. I mean, you guys have spoken for over a year now on this.
Thank you.
I just asked the board to make a decision. Today's the day, as far as I'm concerned.
It is the day.
And I respect whichever way it goes. But we have a gift. We have something that's unique. Love the mountain. Snowmaking. We are planning on doing major upgrades on snowmaking too as well. It mixed into all this too. So I mean, a lot of the things that concerns too have been identified. But I'd like to see it go in this year. Everything's in place, and yes, it's semi-rushed, but it's for a reason, So, but everything is in control. It could be there by December 1st. Right now, if we make a decision. The one big thing with the trees, though, I will mention what you guys saw in there too. I think, there is one more step if we do the tree cutting of talking to the APA just to make sure that it is not affecting wetlands and going through there. So.
I mean, really.
I was thinking the same.
I guess it's not there yet.
But somebody had asked me about that earlier, so I just wanted to make sure that.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to put the facts out, but you all know my take on everything. So,
Dave Klepp.
Yeah, it seems I definitely agree with replacing the hall lift. It's speed and cost. And is there not, again, there is a increase in speed and capacity to the new lift, right? I mean, how much percentage-wise? How many more people?
Is it 30%?
I would have guessed. Well, but then isn't it faster as well, or no?
Well, the chairs are going to be spaced out a little bit more. So
Okay, but it's a net increase in capacity, and I think that's extremely, and again, so why have two lifts running? I don't think you're ever going to fill them. I think that the second lift would be turned off because you don't have the need. So it just seems logical to put it where it is.
That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, and again, speed of getting it done, you can guarantee it's going to get done this year, as opposed to, got to fit the tree cutting in and all the other things that go along with it. So I might just ask, are we here to talk about all things McCauley or just the lift issue?
Just the lift.
Okay.
Please.
All I can say, just one quick comment though. Adam Levy's letter about the bid process, about what was missing, is eerily similar to other bid packages that we've seen here. In other words, there's too many things left out, and I think that there needs to be more involvement every time with people on the board before it goes out to review it, to see. I mean, I think you'd all see things if you look Okay, here's the bid package, what's missing? And that's really important, because they just keep going through these things over and over again.
Thank you. All right, we've heard all public comment right now. It's now a board decision, and there will be no more public comment. Thank you.
So I can't say anything?
Want me to start?
with your comment? Yeah, why don't you start with your comment?
I'll start with mine. I think it should go where the old hall lift is. I went up to McCauley on Friday. I took a tour with Kevin Cross on the UTV, and it just makes sense, money-wise, common sense-wise, and also the surveyor said, why aren't you putting it where the old lift is? So that makes sense to me. I vote on the putting it where the old lift is. That's my opinion. Mike?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Kurt and Brian Van Berger for, and there's many other people, but I'm gonna start with those two because they got this thing to where it's at, as far as I'm concerned. They started this wonderful with Gore Mountain. I mean, this doesn't happen every day that you get a lift basically given to you it's a good lift. I've been told, or I've been on this board for a long time, and Stevie has mentioned many times that the lift that's there is very old. It's not saying it's broken, it's not saying anything, but it is old. Someday we're gonna need to replace that. And we've been trying for many years to get used ones from other mountains and different things, and it has not happened. This happened. So everybody's saying that we're going at it too fast. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I'm also saying we do need to move on some things pretty quick because this lift is getting taken down and sitting on our property. We don't really want it to sit there forever. We want to put it up. So then all these things came about where right at the original thought for me was perfect. Let's take the old lift down, put the new one up, we're good. Real simple. Then we got with all these different people up at Gore talking about you should keep the old lift and why would you do this, and just one thing led to another, and then we came to this site, found a spot that originally was just take the T-bar down and put this one up in that spot. Now that couldn't work. So we mapped out a new spot that was kind of where that was, but now it's clearing a whole bunch of trees, changing everything up there, in my opinion. And then having two lifts on the top, and I do have to agree with everybody that I don't see where two lifts are going to be beneficial because I don't think there's enough people on those lifts at any given time other than races and different things. So, and we have to man it. All of a sudden if Stevie says, hey, we're really busy, we need to run them both, where are we getting the other people to run it? Maybe you have an answer for that, Stevie, but typically you guys are doing your thing at the mountain and you're running the one lift. Do we have another 3 or 4 guys to run the other lift once you get it running and all that? And of course there's price and all that stuff. So, all that being said, threw this around a lot. It has been a very big learning experience. I'll let you all know that. Me personally, I knew nothing about any of this stuff. I've been to Lake Placid, I've been to Gore, I've been listening and hearing, talking. There's a lot involved in this. It's not just putting up a lift. There's electric issues, there's cement, there's all, whatever, it doesn't end. So, going back and forth on where it should go, today I'm saying take the old one down and put the new one up.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, I want to say thanks again to everybody involved that made this happen. I've heard it a bunch too, like we need to replace it, and I've kind of stayed out of this one because I know that we got the right people in place to get this done and make it happen. And I feel like a lot of discussions come out and a lot of steps were taken, but I tend to listen to the people that are up there doing the work and the folks that are putting in bids and things like that. That's how I try to operate. And when we've got people in here, the majority of our staff saying we need to replace the haul lift. And then, how much the tree cutting is going to be an issue. For me, the other part of this too is I don't think we should be rushing into this because they're both going to take time. to me. I think there's gonna be issues that are gonna pop up by taking the chairlift down, and there's gonna be issues popping up by taking the trees down and putting the new chairlift up there. So taking the best, taking financials into consideration, how long it's gonna take, and all that, combined with the fact that, our staff is right here, right? I mean, this is our McCauley, which is awesome. I'm glad that you guys are all here right now, but it's not like we're people are knocking down the door to go up there and do this kind of work. So to expand and run multiple chairlifts when one chairlift is all we've been hearing about what a problem it is, it doesn't make sense to put any reliability or anything towards that lift, in my opinion. And I think it's a no-brainer to just take the old one out and replace it with the new.
Thank you.
Well,
Ben.
Thanks for everyone for coming and voicing your opinions. Been working on this a lot, going back and forth. Got a lot of good discussions between the board and everyone else involved. I want to thank Kurt and Brian for everything that they've done. We wouldn't be here without them. After going through everything, I think, it needs to go where the haul lift is. That being said, the cost of putting it in our other location, replacing the double anyways, puts a huge burden on taxpayers, when what we really need to be doing is working on snowmaking to make sure that we have snow for skiing, especially when it comes to the wet winters we've had. So that being said, what the old one is and work on something.
Thank you. Kyle?
I want to thank everyone as well for coming today. Big thank you to Kurt, Brian, and Linda Bamberger for doing everything that they've done on this project. I've had a lot of discussion with Kurt and Brian both, as well as Ben and Steve. We've talked a few times. I've gone back and forth on this quite a bit, but as we're getting closer to that December 1st deadline, and the amount of trees that would have to be cut in order to put it up where the T-bar is existing right now, and all the work that has been detailed that would have to go into making that possible. Convenience-wise, I do believe that it should go up where the old hull lift is right now. Just replace that lift with the new one. Like Mike said, it's not every day we get a almost brand new chairlift from Orta for $10. And to have it sit in the parking lot for a year, 2 years, 3 years, it's, at that point, we go to put it up years from now, it's not gonna be worth anything. We'll probably have more damaged parts on it than anything. I do like the idea of down the road possibly 2 lifts, because from what I understand, we do have extra parts from this new lift that we won't be utilizing, so maybe on the opposite side of the mountain doing a smaller lift. But as of right now, cost-wise, time-wise, I do believe that it should go up where the current lift is. I talked with Kurt earlier this morning too, and I do believe he brought up an interesting point, with that lift, with the lift that's up there, potentially, cost savings too. We could always turn around and sell the chairlifts and part out the lift that's there once we take it down. There are other mountains, not only in New York State, but around the region that, would have similar lifts that could utilize some of the parts. So that would help, but as of today, my decision is to replace the current chairlift.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to put the new lift in where the current hall lift is?
Better specify, because they're both hall lifts.
Do I have a motion to put the new lift in where the old lift is?
Well, the old chair lift.
The old chair lift.
Sorry to do that.
I'll make the motion.
Yep, Ben, second?
I'll second it.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Lindsay?
Aye.
Councilman Hannah?
Aye.
Councilman Greco?
Aye.
Councilman Ross?
Aye.
Supervisor Baker?
Aye.
5 ayes. New lift is going where the old chairlift is.
Thank you, Kurt and Brian and Linda and McCauley Mountain staff and everybody involved. It's not every day you get a chairlift for $10.
I'd just like to point out too that Stevie really did do, I mean, that was well in the works way before
Yes.
we stepped up there. We just happened to be standing at the right place at the right time that day, I think, but.
Yeah, no, he's been asking for a long time, that's why he goes to
Been
those.
talking, that's where that came from. So.
I hear stories about Steve up in the woods looking for parts for our lift. I hear all kinds of stuff that Steve does for us to keep our lifts
I
going.
don't want that to
Thank
be
you,
misconstrued. That for sure was him.
If you don't mind, obviously no skin off my teeth, or whatever you guys decide, you decide, but we should do everything we can to get that lift on our property. Because right now the chairs are off and everything, as soon as stuff comes off, we gotta get it here.
Yeah, we have a
It's coming.
Okay.
Everything's
Okay.
Yep.
Because that does worry me a little bit. If we leave it up there even a day too long, it might not come here. That's all.
Can I just ask, is the engineering, everything contracted? Everything's in place?
Everything's in place.
Engineer contractor?
Survey's done, everything's done. Literally,
Mike, your car is
So
open
they
and
still
it's
gotta
raining
locate
hard. I
the
just thought
poles
it.
for
and that's gonna happen this week.
I got you.
Survey,
Now
everything's
they
done.
made a decision, they're gonna send them that way.
Yeah, so that's the only thing. It takes about a week for them to get that done.
Great.
How do we decide what we're doing with the chair that's coming down?
That'll come part, so the builder has said that there is potential for him to part it out, so it just depends on how you want him to bid it, that it can actually cheapen the cost of removal if he's gonna be able to, if there's parts that he can use in other places, then there might be a savings cost there too.
He said he could cover most up to most of the cost.
So possibly, so it just depends, we'll see when we bid it out, how that breaks down, but we'll ask him to give us the option of if he has other places that need parts off that chairlift, then that could reduce the cost of that.
Thank you. Nancy, you have a question?
So we're not doing any tree clearing,
Correct.
and.
A little bit.
But I mean, as
But
far
we're
as
not-
as far as the
not
bids,
today.
as far as the bids, we're not doing anything with the bids. And normally this time of year, we hire seasonal and part-time summer chairlift people. I
Yeah,
assume
what are
we're
you
not
doing
doing
about
that.
that? Yeah, I have a question about that. Are you gonna do?
Well.
Okay, so put it in your minds. I just wanted to
Okay.
ask. We don't need to
So the
now.
chair can
just-
run until they come to take it down, so that right now he's
No,
got.
it cannot.
Well, I'm just saying that Jason's not gonna come until August, it sounds like, so that's when things would start.
No, I'm not.
You guys
It's
pay for an inspection.
$24,000 per chair, or I mean, $1,000 per chair, $24,000.
That was
For what?
incorrect. For
That's
that.
incorrect?
Yeah, so that was the quote that we got for, I thought for the grips, but Steve can explain it better than I can.
Every year we send out a quarter of our grips to be inspected, done that forever. And we were currently in that process. They're literally packed in a crate, ready to go. We're arranging the shipment. So part of that, we have to get a retail value for those grips from Doppelmayr to send them across the border. That's what the $1,000 is.
Oh.
That's not what it's gonna cost us. They have to be inspected. Some are gonna pass inspection and it's just the inspection fee. Some will have to be remachined, some will have to be replaced. We don't know the exact cost, but that $1,000 a grip is just it's to get them across the border back to, but there's other, we've got a cable inspection coming out. If you wanna scrap all of that, but there's a lot of, now that we've made it, you guys have made a decision, if other areas have a use for that lift, well, don't we have a use for it too?
Say that too. Can you put that one there? Yeah.
So the one thing is, if we're gonna reuse the lift, we'd helicopter it out, so that's gonna add an expense to it, so it's just, I'm talking facts here. And then, yes, you could reuse that lift, but they'd have to rebuild, as soon as you take it down and reinstall it anywhere, it needs to be New York State code, so they would have to we'd have to rebuild, what's the pulley thing, so you can pull the parts off, the things on the top.
Lifting arm.
And then a platform around the top for people to work off of, so I think the platform, and then there's whatever the bar is that needs to go above it.
Catwalks and lifting arms.
But it goes back to the argument too, like the chairlift is not in good condition, right?
Well, the chairlift is in good condition. It gets passed every single year and it runs perfectly well for 85 to 86
The
days
cost
a year.
of bringing it up to 2022 specifications, it wouldn't be worth putting it up in a new location.
Do we know that though?
I don't know if that's true. That's just,
Well,
I
that's
don't know.
what
We can
Vice
ask,
President
we can
Moore
ask, well, that's a question that can be
Adam?
asked to the.
So I don't know what
Is that different top drive, bottom drive, different than the towers? Yes. You know, so there's none of it that we could use, or we could use the top and the bottom, use the new towers from this lift that we're gonna have extra towers. It might be a perfect marriage. I don't know. But don't sell it just yet, is my recommendation.
Yeah, we're not. Adam,
My question is, you had said doing nothing with the bids, but there was actually 2 bids in there, and one was those 8 or 9 hazard trees, and I just was confirming on that, because they're gonna be a hazard whether the haul lift stayed or whether the new one went there. That was just I was trying to confirm that.
All right, and that's, Nancy, that was my question. When the bids went out and we got a bid, is it okay for this town board to just not do it?
Yeah, you always put in there that, excuse me, said board reserves the right to reject any and all bids, whatever.
Okay, so that takes
That's
care
not
of that.
a problem.
Okay.
No.
And then these other trees, is this still something that we need to just say yes on?
I know nothing about the extra trees.
We have to get rid of those.
okay, so we should deal with that today.
Yeah.
All right, so Levy's did 14,900 for the 9 hazardous trees.
Yep.
Almost 26.
And then Farney Tree and Excavation, they did 26,000. They did 8 trees, but they did 26,000 for Farney.
Okay. That's a no-brainer.
Somebody make a motion?
Somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the levy bid for the 9 hazardous trees, 14.9.
14.9, yep. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Was that Kyle?
Good job, I'm sure of that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those?
Can I ask when we would, you finish that?
What, no, what do you want?
When we would discuss the whole summer chairlift operation?
Not today. Another time.
Right.
Yeah, we might have to figure that out.
How much space?
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you again all for coming. It means a lot to get McCauley going in the right direction. Good news.